Hi friends, welcome back. This is Walesa from A Life Refurbished, and perhaps you're watching this video because you're interested in turning furniture refinishing into a side hustle, or perhaps you just want to refinish furniture to make some extra cash to pay some bills, because who doesn't need some extra cash on this economy? I'm gonna be spilling the tea and share with you how I made well over $2,000 on this free roadside find. Much money I spent on these transformations and how much money I actually took home. Are you ready to make some extra cash? Then stick around for today's furniture transformations. Well, first of all, I think it's important to talk about why did I even pick them up in the first place. They have those straight lines which are really popular right now and they look modern. And I thought if I make something special with each one, they could really stand out. One of the pieces of advice I have for you is to choose pieces and styles that sell in your area. Styles that might be popular in one state may not be in another one. Besides their style, there was another thing that these three pieces had in common. They were filthy. Very, very filthy. Perhaps I didn't pay for these pieces monetarily, but let me tell you, the amount of labor that went into taking the grime off was sure intense. I kept track of my time spent and it was 12 hours total cleaning all three. I still have PTSD from it. So let's talk about the first makeover. This one was inspired by my friend Courtney over at Stillbridge Studios. She created this beautiful piece with like a navy blue pattern that I love, and I was like, I want to recreate that. So I went to Amazon, I ordered the stenciling, I grabbed some paint that was similar, and I'm going to share with you why I ended up adding some legs to it. From the moment this piece made it through the workshop, we realized that one of the legs that was attached to the base was completely destroyed, which meant we needed to remove the entire thing. Out of those 12 hours we spent cleaning the three pieces, 4 of those hours were spent cleaning this one in particular. And I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that you remove the grime before you start sanding. Can you imagine watching all that grime, all that gunk go into the wood grain as you sand, and then for it to come back when you are priming? So I just make sure that I scrub the life out of these guys. So here we're using some wood filler to cover some imperfections and the old hardware holes because we're going to be attaching new handles. 30 minutes later we sanded until everything was smooth, and now we're getting ready to apply some primer. I'm going to be applying 2 coats of this white primer, waiting 1 hour between the first and second coat. There's one thing that I like to do when I'm rolling or brushing primer, and that is to leave the drawers in. I think it's easier for me since they are at an eye level. I'm less likely to miss a spot. To achieve that really sleek and smooth finish, I'm scuff sanding the surface with a 220 grit and then removing all the dust. For the base color, I'm using a true white, and I'm going to be linking all the products that I'm using for today's makeovers under the video description. Feel free to check that out. This part right here is the one thing that you want to make sure you start right, and is to center the stencil right in the middle. Since I want to keep the stencil from moving around while I'm rolling the paint over it, I'm taping it using the blue color tape. This one won't pull the paint underneath it. And after loading the roller, I'm gonna be offloading any excess paint by rolling over a paper towel. This is gonna help your design look more crisp. I did have some of the paint seep through the edges, so I ended up doing a couple touch-ups. I wanted the blue design to look a little worn out, so I just ended up scuff sanding the dresser using a 220 grit. After removing the dust, we grabbed a few pieces of scrap wood that we had and attached them to the bottom of the dresser so that we could screw the legs in too. I ended up applying 3 coats of polyurethane to protect the new finish, but today's video is a little lengthy, so I'm not showing you here. Let's remember how the dresser started at the beginning of the video versus how it looked when it was sold, and stick around because I'm gonna be giving you a breakdown of how much money I spent in supplies, how much I sold the dresser for, and how much money I took home from this furniture flip. I live in the state of Minnesota, and the person who bought this dresser lives in Florida. She saw my work over on Instagram and sent me a DM asking if I could ship it. I ended up looking into this website called UShip. I was able to find somebody that could come and pick it up fairly quickly. And after giving the customer the quote, she was okay paying for the shipping fee, and it lives in Florida now. So here is a profit breakdown for piece number 1. The second makeover came about after the Makers Challenge Central, which is a community of makers, hosted this furniture flip contest in conjunction with Do It Yourself magazine. I won the first contest for the theme texture, and then I was invited to host the next season. As a host, you were invited to create something that had a metallic component in it. After searching and looking, I found these metallic flakes, and I thought these were perfect. It just had a touch of metallic in it. Yeah, let's take a peek and see what I did here. This dresser took the lead by far on the amount of time that it took to get it cleaned up. 6 hours. Similar to the first dresser, this one also had some damage on the base, except this one was caused by moisture, and after further inspection I realized it needed to be removed. So we're going to be adding legs to this second dresser. I'm going for a funky design on the front drawers, so I sanded them all to bare wood, and right here I'm just giving them a good wipe down using some odorless mineral spirits. For that funky front design, I tore some painter's paper, and I'm gonna use it as a guide to help me visualize and have a better idea of what I'm doing, because honestly this is my first time trying it, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be adding some new hardware, and I want the wood filler to camouflage the rest of the drawers really well. So I ended up using this tintable wood filler. The only thing that's different about this wood filler compared to others is that it takes 2 hours to dry. Meanwhile, I'm applying 2 coats of primer to the rest of the dresser. Once both the primer and the wood filler dry, I ended up sanding the repairs and scuff sanding the primer. To stain the front of the drawers, I used the same color I added to that wood filler, and those hardware holes were not where to be seen, so that is a great product, stainable wood filler. I loved it. This stain is water-based, and I just went ahead and removed the excess with a shop paper towel. Then I went ahead and primed the rest of the drawers. The color I'm using in today's piece is called Rattan and is from Lily Moon Paint. To make the transition between the painted and stained areas a bit softer, I added a lighter tone of paint to the color Rattan and tried blending it in using a sea sponge. Initially, I ordered this metal hardware from Amazon that didn't quite match the legs, so I ended up spraying both of them. But towards the end of the video, you're gonna notice that I ended up changing my mind about the hardware and ended up ordering some leather pulls instead. Okay, it's time to have some fun with some metal flakes, and this was actually pretty easy. And remember, this is my first time trying this. All you have to do is put an off of your matte patch, placing the metal flakes on top of the matte patch. You can put a little bit of pressure, but make sure that you're wearing gloves so they don't get stuck to your hands. After I was done with the metal flakes, I wanted to darken the rattan a little more, once again to soften the transitions between the colors, and ended up adding a little bit of mudslide, mixing it with rattan and blending them just a bit. I also ended up applying a lighter tone to the stained areas to soften the brown. Now I'm gonna be painting the rest of the dresser using the same color rattan from Lily Moon Paint. Normally I let the paint dry overnight, and then the following day I like to flip the piece upside down, as you can see, to screw the legs in. Let's protect the new finish using this polyacrylic from Mingwax, and I applied 3 coats on this girl. You guys remember how she looked earlier in the video? What do you guys think of these metallic flakes? Is it something that you would try in one of your projects? Let me know in the comments and stick around for the profit breakdown. Makeover was also sold via Facebook Marketplace, but there's a little twist here. I ended up refinishing this other nightstand, and I hadn't even posted it for sale because I had just finished it. When the client came, she also spotted the nightstand and asked me if I was selling that one as well. She ended up purchasing both of them. Not only did I make profit on the dresser that day, but also on the nightstand. And here's the profit breakdown. For the third and final makeover, I kept seeing this wall art that had texture with plaster, and I thought, I haven't seen anybody create anything like this in furniture. Decided just to go for it. Let's see what I did. This is our last and third piece of the day, and I spent 2 hours cleaning this one. I sanded all 3 pieces using 120 grit until I had them pretty much all down to bare wood. At the beginning, I had plans to stain this piece because it looked like it was in great shape, but in a minute you're gonna see what happened that made me change my mind. For that plaster texture, I'm gonna be using Dixie Belle mud and some trowels. This is another design that was a first time for me, and I knew that I wanted to divide these drawers in 3 parts, so I drew 3 vertical lines. By doing this, I'm better at making choices where I want to see those circular designs that I'm picturing in my head. As you see me here, I'm trying different things with the trowel. I think it's important for you to know that this Dixie mud, it's easy to work with, and anytime I messed up or I saw something that I didn't quite like, I was able to sort of erase it and start over. But I honestly didn't have a plan here, so I let myself have a little bit of fun with it. For those of you who might be wondering, this material dries really hard. I had to sand quite rigorously to get it smooth or to remove any extra that I didn't want to keep my finish clean here. The parts that are getting painted are getting primed with Bin White Shellac Primer. And there was a slight change of plans here because I had wanted to leave the exposed wood like I mentioned it earlier, but when I started priming with the clear shellac, there were so many imperfections that unfortunately I had to paint the body. A few hours later, after that first coat of clear shellac dry, I ended up applying another coat of Bin Shellac White Primer and then tape around the front frame because I think I can still leave this part exposed. I always love, even if I just leave some legs exposed or part of the frame exposed, I'm content with that. The drawers are gonna be painted with a white color paint called Cloudy Day, while the rest of the piece is getting painted with the color Serenity. Both colors are from Cottage Paint. Take away some of the red tones on the wood that I'm gonna be leaving exposed, I diluted the color Serenity with water to create this color wash and apply one coat to the front frame. It's time to protect the new finish, and yes, we can apply polyurethane over our plaster too. Here's a little reminder of how this little guy looked earlier, and this is how he looked when he went to its forever home. Surprise, this cutie ended up finding a home through Craigslist, and this is a profit breakdown. Perhaps some of you out there are thinking, well, Lisa, I'm not that creative, or I don't even like what you did here. Well, just know that there's plenty of people that love the traditional look in their home as well. I have a lot of friends out there that had either paid a great amount of debt refinishing furniture or just flip furniture to help them pay their mortgage. So I want to encourage you that if you were questioning if this furniture refinishing side hustle would be profitable or not, I'm here to tell you, yes. It is absolutely profitable. If you enjoyed today's content, please let me know in the comments. And if you have a favorite transformation from today's video, then write it down too. I love to read you guys, and I will see you next time.